Well, greetings, Series 7 test takers. This is the Series 7 guru coming to you from my fabulous studio here in Las Vegas, or my fabulous studio in fabulous Las Vegas. Still got a couple more things to do on the new studio, but boy, thousands of dollars later, we're almost there. Got a couple more things to do before we're going to call this project finished. Another question request. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. There are over 85 videos for Series 7 in 6 unique playlists. But if you don't have a Kaplan Q Bank, I think that is the best paid supplement to add to your study inventory, your study materials inventory. Shout out to Kaplan. Kaplan allows free looks of Kaplan questions to my members, viewers, and subscribers. And with my Guru 10 discount, which works on all Kaplan products and services, there's been people who think it only works for, a Q Bank or for a Kaplan class. It doesn't even have to be my co-branded classes with Kaplan. Any Kaplan product or services, the Guru 10 discount code at checkout works. We will explicate any questions from any vendor. I originally started my social media, the YouTube channel, the Reddits, to have a direct connection with test takers, not dependent on your test prep vendor or your sponsoring broker dealer. So it doesn't have to be Kaplan question, just easier when it is, because in this example, the test taker can just give me the QID 1370858 and no need to cut and paste and do all that kind of stuff. All right, so an investor purchased 100 shares of Paradigm Publishing Corporation, PBC, on October 17th, 2020. As I've said in previous videos, when we are given a date, we're thinking it's probably going to be something about a holding period, something to do where the date's important, otherwise it wouldn't be there. So, I'm thinking long-term, short-term. That's kind of what I'm thinking as a test taker as I read that first sentence. The price was 83 per share. Now, what I like to do is, again, lots of different ways to do it. But if you've been with me any length of time, you know what Dean and his test taking cohort love to say is fire up the T. Fire up the T so we can track the money in and out of the account. And I use dollars out, dollars in. Some people like to use debit. Some people like to use minus signs, whatever floats your boat. I like to use dollars out versus dollars in. So the minute they tell me that that stock is 83, I'm just going to plug that in there because I think I'm going to need that. I call this, by the way, this part of the process, I call the setup, right? So I'm going to put 83 in there. Boom, that's what I'm paying. And again, buffet, take what you like, leave what you don't. But what I like to do is do it on a per share basis. So I don't have a bunch of zeros floating all over the place. If this was 200 shares or 300 shares, that way I can just multiply, once and having to multiply all the way through the question itself. And then I always, particularly if you're just kind of starting out, you might want to remind yourself about ultimately what is going to be the offset, right? So if I've bought that stock, I'm going to be interested in selling that stock. All right, so let's see now, the next part of the question. Wrote an 85 call for 3. So I'm going to put that in there. So this looks like it's a covered call. You're going to get 3, 4, 5 covered calls. I can't imagine any draw of the exam and where you don't get asked to recognize why somebody does a covered call. They do a covered call to generate additional income. And again, this option is either going to be traded, this option is going to be exercised, or this option is going to expire. So I'm either going to trade it, which means I've done an opening sale, I'm going to do closing purchase. It's going to be exercised, in which case that means I sold the stock at 90, or it's going to expire if the stock is 85 or lower, right? So on April 11th, 2021, now it doesn't matter in terms of this. I think what they're trying to get you confused on is these dates. Writing the call will not affect the holding period on the stock. So that's never going to be a problem. If you're looking at this, you don't know it's a call contract, it could be a problem. I would know there's a ceiling at 85. Okay, so I got my setup done. At expiration, the stock is selling at 90 and the investor liquidates the stock. Again, I can see where you're having problems with this question because we wouldn't actually liquidate the stock. This is actually more of a vendor practice question. The stock would get called away from us. But we have to go with the flow. We have to go with the flow. And so the flow, going with the flow, is they say we close that out. The investor liquidates the stock at the market price. So maybe that's what this test taker is struggling with. But let's put that in there. And close the option for intrinsic value. So, whenever I have an intrinsic value question, what I like to do is I like to kind of get my call contract. So here's my call contract. So it's an 85 call contract. Call up. Call up. So then what I like to do is put the current market price. In this case, it tells me the current market price is 90. I'll call that CMP. And an 85 call with the stock at 90 has 5 points of intrinsic value. And so it says I close it out at intrinsic value. So the intrinsic value of the 85 call with the stock at 90 is 5 points. So I'm going to put that in there. Now, again, you got to practice your skills here on closing out. So remember, if I did an opening sale, the closeout is going to be a closing purchase. Okay, so now let's net this out. It says the net tax consequences. The net always means we're subtracting, adding and subtracting, we're netting it, right? So again, be careful. Sometimes I don't personally, this is just me. I sometimes don't net this. I just say, well, it's 88 and 93. That's a $500 gain when it's all said and done. Again, the only reason I don't do that sometimes, I'm going to do it for you guys. But the reason sometimes I don't do that is because I want to be careful about numbers that I'm introducing into my T that come from the question. So for all these numbers that I put in here come from the question itself. And I just want to be disciplined when I start introducing numbers in the T that are not from the question. This is now simply me just subtotaling these numbers. So that's 88 and that's 93. And so it looks like I'm going to look for an answer that says I have a 5 point or $500 gain. And then it says the net tax consequences. So we're looking for short-term or long-term. The option is a short-term $200 loss, and the stock is a $700 long-term gain. And I can net the short-term loss against the long-term gain. So I'm looking for $500 as a long-term gain. All right, let's see what our answer set looks like. There we go, $500. So plays out. By the way, we should, from the T, know that it can't be B. Again, C would have been the good miss here, I guess. The good miss would be, that you're struggling with whether it's longer term or short term. Let's see what the Kaplan explanation is for the question. $900 long-term capital gain. Well, no, because that would not be net. Well, I guess you could interpret it that way, but it's a tough one. As most of your explication requests are, most of your explication questions that you ask for are difficult. Let me clean up my slide here. So we're going to look at the rationale. Okay, let's take the positions one at a time. The stock is purchased for $83 out, sold for $90 in. That is a 7 point or $700 long-term gain, October 2020 to November 2021. So we were right that they wanted us to kind of deal with this idea of we were at risk in the stock for more than 12 months. Now the option is sold for 3 points and closed, bought back, closing purchase for 5. The difference between the 85 strike price and 90 market price for a short-term loss of 200 or 2 points. The net of the two, 7 minus 200 is a $500 long-term capital gain. Now I just did that. It looks like what Kaplan has done here is one at a time. And I just did in one fell swoop. I like the T, by the way, because I think it's easier if you just do it, all at once. I notice Knopman does that. They take multiple option strategies and break them down leg by leg. Again, there's so many different ways to do options, whatever floats your boat. Yeah, I would tell you that my students are very successful. So, whatever method you're using, as long as it gets you the right answer, it's a good method. Right? So I had a young lady, she's so willful. She said she had her own method of doing options. I said, wonderful, as long as you're getting right answers. But she wasn't getting right answers. I said, well, listen, you need to give up that method because that's not returning to you the correct answer. Anyways, then Kaplan tells you the trick. If you thought that writing the call when the stock's holding period was still short-term and an MPIC, you were thinking of the effect of buying a put on stock held short-term. I'm not so sure how Kaplan thinks they know what's in your brain housing group, what's floating around up there, but maybe they were thinking you interrupted the holding period. Like if you had bought a put, that would have been what happened. But again, I think people go way overboard on tax consequences of options. Make sure you got the options down first, and you can deal with, tax consequences. I don't think it's a big deal as much as the option strategies and suitability on options is. Anyways, buying or selling call doesn't affect the holding period. Well, there you go. All right. So I think I'm now caught up on all the requests that people send. If you have any requests, just send them my way. And then remember, inch by inch, Series 7 is a cinch, and yard by yard, Series 7 is hard. Hope to see you Hope to see you Tuesday, tomorrow night, for our weekly community live stream. You can submit questions early or submit questions during the live stream itself. There's a link, and I'll put another link up there for you. Bye-bye.